Good morning. I'm Catherine Wilson. I'm Vice President of IRE, and I've got the pleasure to talk today at Voxpo. It's really hemp, a promise of growth. Hemp in a post-pandemic Europe. IRE, let me introduce you. IRE is the Pan-European Hemp Association, and we represent the entire hemp value chain from seed to shelf and farm to fork. We have members in all countries. We have many overseas members as well, and we are represented by a board which span various countries and interest groups. In our secretariat in Brussels is led by our managing director, Lorenzo Romanese, and her colleague, Francesco Marizzi, is the senior policy advisor. Many of you may have had contact recently with Monica Solano, who deals with membership inquiries and also the Novel Food Consortium, and Victoria, our press secretary and communication secretary. On the board, Daniel Kruse is our president, and I am vice president and also UK representative. In the UK, there is two of us, myself and Tony Reeves, and we've been working together on behalf of IRE and the membership with regulatory issues and general liaison and the promotion of hemp since late 2016. Within IRE, like this, we have been growing. IRE has been established 18 years ago. We actually have this June our 18th conference. And we have grown significantly over the last few years. And with that, we also have evolved the organization to truly reflect our members' needs. So what are the core principles governing IRE? It's science, transparency, and above all, collaboration. We currently have about 300 business operators part of IRE, and we split it. We showed you earlier the board, but we also have a science committee, because really the development of hemp must be science driven. Two reasons: we know that legislation certainly needs to be improved. It's currently not being very positive towards hemp, and we need to scientifically show also safety benefits and so on, but also for the reputation of our business operators, the reputation of hemp, and to continuously further the difference and dispel the misconceptions. The board focuses on strategy and priorities, and we also get our members to engage. We simply can't cover it all ourselves, so we've now started to develop the working groups. And this is really about sector expertise. So we ask our working groups our members to participate and use their skill and knowledge as well. Who are the working groups? We have a very active group now for fiber and textile, which we've identified as one of the key areas of interest for the hemp fiber development. And there we're looking at standards for fiber, a roadmap for the development of a European hemp sector. We have many processing technologies, and this is shared. It's also attended by various universities to promote, obviously, fiber and textile made from hemp, to make business contacts, and obviously also get involved in the various policies. The food and supplements group is probably what IRE is more known for. We have over 100 active members there. And this primarily refers to novel foods, definition standards, and of course the issue of THC, and particularly the novel food issue, I think will go first. And more recently, we developed an advocacy and communications group. Our secretariat obviously is very active in Brussels, and Tony and myself with the assistance of the secretariat in the UK. But we also have members from all European states, and it is an ability to share the knowledge, enlist their help and spread the positive work we're doing for the hemp sector. The first meeting for a specific agri and environment working group is on the 1st of June, and I'm personally very excited about that. And it will look at controls, farming practices, harvest techniques, and obviously as well policy updates. More recently, we've had 2 meetings now, is the Science Committee. We've had so many universities join the IA Science Committee, and it's been an absolute pleasure and delight how many universities either have already completed the hemp science project, are currently in the process, or are considering. And this spans from carbon capture through to composite plastic companies developing of raw material, and also a lot with regards to textile and fiber. We are now reaching out as well to UK universities to join, and I know personally from the past, having spoken to at least 4 of them, and I hope they will join us as well. What is the scope of AYA? Basically, we are primarily representing industrial hemp. This means sativa varieties that fall within EU THC limits, so the non or the low THC strains that are non-psychotropic. But I think, as we've all know, that within the world of CBD, there is also an overlap with medical, but there is also going across all legislation and overlap with medical. So whether that is the UN Convention or the current work at the INCB. So I think is going to expand monitoring other legislation that could have an effect on the industrial hemp sector. We're not representing smokable hemp or adult use. What's our philosophy? Well, unity makes strength. That's not rocket science. If you work together, you'll achieve more. But I think what the hemp sector has shown so well in comparison to maybe some other sectors is we work together, not to get a bigger slice of the same cake, but to make a bigger cake. Local sourcing is one of the key factors of hemp. It absolutely lends itself, due to the low value as a biomass, to grow it locally, process it locally, and consume it locally. But we also have global connections. And above all, we believe in transparent and science-based policy making. And we very much believe it is now the right moment for hemp. I myself have been working with hemp since 2014, which isn't very long because I have some colleagues who've been in it since the 90s. But even 6 to 7 years down the road, I can feel the difference. It is now talking about hemp. Everybody knows about hemp, or most people do by now, and there is also a much greater interest in the plant. So let's put hemp into context, because we humans are part of an ecosystem, and hemp offers sustainability. We have an awful lot of common problems. The list is long, and we can only address or solve this with cooperation and solidarity in standing alongside each other. We also have recently, certainly in COVID, and also recently in the Suez Canal, seen the potential for the disruption of the supply chains. So hemp can offer in many areas raw material sovereignty. We need to address, and I know this is a policy looked both at the EU and in the US and in the UK, how essential sectors and services need to be relocated more locally. We do have an incumbent economic crisis, and we all want to focus of how can we evolve in a post-pandemic Europe and create jobs, create growth, and above all, create green jobs. Because I was speaking recently to a friend, in 2019, our media was largely dominated by the environmental issues, the planet is facing. And I'm sure we all remember the Attenborough documentaries, and quite heartbreaking and very sobering. We have a health and we have a climate crisis, and we also have hemp. And although hemp is only a little plant, I think we can play a genuine contribution. So which policies have we identified? The right policies. There is a need to an adaptation to climate change. We know that hemp can be grown throughout Europe and in pretty much all climates. Carbon farming. We will continuously seek to either grow more trees or grow plants such as hemp, which can be used for carbon farming and capture the CO2 in its stalk. A more sustainable use for pesticide is certainly another aim. For many reasons, certain pesticides are known to have quite detrimental effects on the environment, whether it is, well, we don't need to discuss that. I think everybody here knows. There is an aim for zero pollution for water, air and soils. I think we're a million miles away, and I don't know if we'll ever even manage that as humanity, because actually we're quite a dirty species. Biodiversity strategy. One of the most striking things when you grow hemp is that the tall industrial hemp, it forms that shady canopy, is the amount of insects and birds and bees and other species that can grow and live in a hemp field without affecting the crop too much. And it can definitely contribute, and we look forward to seeing more studies. Cornell has done some recently, but there are others on the way. Circular economy and new industrial strategy, textile strategy and built environment initiatives, and sustainable food systems, food supply and security. So what we really cover within IAA is the policies for agriculture, environment, and industry. Interestingly, hemp is a rotation crop, and it has a fit for most EU regions and soils. There is little or no use of inputs. So we need not much pesticide and so on. Very interesting, hemp has actually been identified as a source of pollen in a period of floral scarcity. We're talking now about August, when the bees definitely need to stock up and on pollen and get strength to come through the winter. There's very little blossoming, and at this time hemp fields become highly attractive. In one of the studies we saw 22, 24 different forms. They're not just bees, they're wasps. They're not quite sure what they're now called. In a field. Hemp actually has a very deep root system, so it reduces water loss and soil erosion. And we know if you use, for example, no-till farming and you have a healthy soil culture with AMF, so arbor-muscular fungi, then we also sequester carbon back to the soil. There are many interesting projects on the way, and I think if you follow IAA and our work, you will hear more about it next year and the year after. We also have done studies and know of studies to show the beneficial effects of successive crops. It is a very good rotation crop. And hemp, as we know, can be used for phytoremediation. It will draw heavy metals from the soil, which is why also good testing for foodstuffs and farming hemp on clean soil for food production is so important. What is hemp? Outside CBD and hemp seeds, it is a genuine multi-purpose crop. I personally am most excited about the fact that it is a carbon negative raw material, storing up to 13 tons of carbon per hectare in its stalk. The calculations are available, and this stalk is suitable for many applications. The green parts and the upper parts of the plant are a source of nutritious food and plant protein, and it is highly dependent from local sourcing. So last year, we published a document early in the year called Hemp, the Real Green Deal. Why? The world has changed and so has business. And if anybody follows EU affairs, then we will know that Caroline von der Leyen has laid out in her manifesto that the environment comes first, that we are seeking for Europe, and the UK, of course, has done this already, to be carbon neutral by 2050. Now, that gives us 29 years, and anybody working in industry and development knows that 10 years is no time at all. And this is an enormous request to industry to slowly restructure, develop practices, improve, and we need time to achieve that. We do believe that hemp is actually the real Green Deal, and I will tell you a little bit about it more and show you how we can use the whole plant. So what is the market potential? And, you know, when we talk about industrial hemp, we really primarily talk about outdoor grown hemp, not indoor grown hemp used for indoor grown cannabis, obviously for medicinal purposes, or just indoor grown strains for specific applications. We talk about outdoor grown food strains. It is true green chemistry. Now, we know the plant is carbon negative, and we know it can make CBD oils from the top, which are ever increasing in their interest as a healthy source of nutrients for people to keep us well and healthy and achieve the best possible health, our circumstances. But we also have seeds, and from the stalk, we can make construction materials, plastic alternatives, textile, and paper, whilst at the same time protecting the soil and improving the soil. So it's a win-win-win, whichever way we look at. Hemp is actually only good for us. And it is such a pleasure of working with the plant when you know that what you do actually contributes positively to the planet, to the now and to the future. What is little known is the true value of hemp as a plant protein. It is available for direct consumption, but hemp seeds by themselves isn't everybody's natural choice as part of their diet. And we will be seeking more and more to integrate hemp seed, who've got such a high protein value, I think there was another slice, also into more processed foods. What we really need is we need regulatory evolution. We need something like a UK or a European hemp farm bill that allows stable business environment and that incentivizes investment in processing facilities and gives us the security that we know year on year we can grow this crop and we can utilize the plant. We also now encourage, because in the EU it has been voted that the THC level will be increased from 0.2 to 0.3%. So now there's additional research in breeding, which will develop further the triple use, so the fiber and the shibs, the seeds, and the green material for extraction. And we are also now looking into more opportunities for carbon farming because of its natural high carbon capture. Hemp pasta, anybody tried it yet? So let's look at the food. Sorry, my screen is somehow frozen. Hang on. I need to try again. So, maybe I do it like this. Yeah. When we look at hemp food, we look at the seeds, which was well known, dehulled seeds, flour, protein, seed oil, and processed foods, and the flowers and leaves, which are used for tea, for non-enriched extracts, and also in food preparations. Now, the IRA position is the EU view for hemp, for the cannabis sativa plant in its relation to food, as it was until January 2019, and the confirmation of the recent European Court of Justice ruling. Why is it so important that we can continue to do this? Because certainly in the last year, everybody has been encouraged to look more after our health. And it has been a growing industry anyway. And after many decades of processed food, there is ever more increase to source local, buy healthier food, lead a healthy lifestyle, get non-allergenic ingredients and supplement, and support our inner homeostasis, our inner balance, to deal with the challenges of modern conditions and society. The seed benefits. The main proteins in the plant is edestin and albumin, and it has very high levels of arginine. What is most important is that hemp actually has a protein ratio of almost 30%. It contains more protein than chicken. I think I'll need to move a little bit quicker now. The food stuff, the actual use of hemp foods is exponentially growing now worldwide. I will show you a few products, and it has been with great pleasure that we see major brands in all countries embracing hemp fruits. Hemp protein powders is getting more very popular because it's a healthy source like pea protein, and certainly better than whey powder. Seed oil, British sport making chocolate, pasta, the integration of hemp into ready foods. There is more in France. Carrefour is actually offering now hemp milk, honey, muesli with hemp seeds, and protein powders again. Germany at Aldi. This, a few years, was fringe, and now hemp products are appearing everywhere. Equally in cosmetics, the only people that did use hemp used to be the Body Shop. Now we have Palmolive and Garnier, and even Colgate recently added hemp seeds to their toothpaste. So this industry is growing, and it is supporting the farms, and it is supporting the environmental benefits of the plant. So on a bit of history for anybody who is not so familiar and only came more recently to CBD, believing that CBD and hemp foods is all new, it quite isn't. In 1997, everything was food. And we had a letter, IRA, or the equivalent at the time, had a letter saying it's been decided that foodstuffs containing parts of the hemp plant do not fall within the scope of Regulation EC 25897, and that hemp flowers are considered as food ingredients. This decision, when the novel food catalogue was developed, gave rise to the European hemp industry. But somehow, as more CBD started quite early, almost 10 years ago now. But by 2016-17, it started to attract the attention of the regulators. And by 2018, it was decided in the European catalogue that it can be novel, but only if the CBD content is higher than the CBD content in the source material. Now, we know that the content in the source material can be quite high and roughly reflects the majority of the CBD products sold on the market. So we thought, as food business operators, we are compliant. By 2019, it was all novel. And I think everybody will remember that January day. By 2020, after IRA declared, not after IRA, but for those who are familiar, IRA set out through its membership a joint novel food consortium, and all members agreed to contribute, and we established a significant budget of 3.5 million to basically show that hemp is safe and good for our consumption. But somehow in the middle of this process in 2020, there was, wait, maybe the flower is a narcotic. CBD is a narcotic. And finally in December, it was, CBD is not a narcotic. Well, anybody who works with hemp actually knows that. So what changed that perception? There is the famous Canna-Vape case, or certainly famous in our industry, when Canna-Vape was fined for selling CBD oil in vape cartridges in France, and went all the way to the European Court of Justice. And in its ruling, eventually, it was positive. So what did the ruling do? It clarified the status of extracts in the EU. It is legally binding for all member states as an EU CJ ruling. And this ruling also happened, by the way, before Britain left the EU. So it also was automatically adopted in the UK. It will influence preliminary conclusion, and it certainly influences the EU position at the UN. So we have a wonderful domino effect from this court case. The three main principles was that a member state may not prohibit the marketing of CBD legally produced in another member state when it is extracted from the sativa plant in its entirety. That is very important, and not only from its fibers and seeds. The ECJ considers that the CBD extracted from flowers should not be regarded as a narcotic in the light and the spirit of the 1961 Convention. And France will have to provide scientific proof of the dangerousness of the CBD if it chooses to go against the marketing of products in CBD. And this ruling really has clarified a lot of points, and I don't know if anybody has come across, but I and our science committee also contributed on the UN Single Convention, a wonderful document that basically shows why hemp does not actually meet the actual interpretation and definition, the purpose of the UN Single Convention, and why industrial hemp should be excluded. For anybody who is interested, please go to the IA website under policies and look for common position on the Single Convention. This paper was co-signed by most major hemp associations worldwide. And once again, cooperation is the key. We work together, the cake is getting bigger. And there'll be plenty for everybody. Novel or not, our position, we absolutely remain that extracts containing naturally occurring levels, as is naturally present in the plant, in the top plant, as we've consumed for millennia, is not novel. That is traditional food. Now, that hasn't yet been accepted. We won't quite give up yet, but what we have done is, meanwhile, our Novel Food Consortium, and if anybody still would like to join, please do contact the Secretariat. We have already submitted our novel food application in time to the UK on the 19th of February, and it is with absolute delight that I can say that both our novel food applications have passed the admin check, which is one of them is we have 5 different products covered, and the one is THC free, so isolate THC free extract, and the other one is what we would call the full spectrum range of the extracts. Both of them have passed the admin check, and we will also be submitting now in April, well, we said April, it's now going to be May, we're almost there, to EFSA. What are we doing at the moment? We're in the middle of the tox studies, so we need to fulfill a great amount of tox studies, levels, guidelines, intake, genotoxicity, liver toxicity, THC, safety of THC in extracts. And for that, Aya is undertaking the largest ever clinical studies on human beings, and there will be 200 of them, and we're just kind of working and finalizing the parameters for this world-leading study, which, if it confirms what we as consumers of these products know, then hopefully this will be the ultimate game changer and help worldwide to really let hemp come back to a much bigger way than it already is. What we really do and why we got together and why the industry is working together is we want to comply to the high quality and transparency standards, and we are committed to invest the money and the time to answer the questions. So, quick recap in the FSA. On the 18th, I submitted the novel food application on isolate CBD, and we passed the admin check, and it's currently under validation. And in May 21, we will, that's not quite right there. I think I said it earlier. It's an old slide. The date here is wrong. We passed the admin check and currently under validation as well. It should read March 21 because it was shortly after the isolate one. My apologies. On the next step, there has been so much said that the FSA is late and that the list isn't published yet. Actually, I think that they are magnificent. They've had a huge number of applications being filed. It is a great administrative process. And even more so, as you may be aware, there is that discussion that only companies that had products on the market prior to February 13th of February 2020 can remain on the market. So everybody had to confirm every product they had on the market with every barcode and every reference and supplier invoice and a complete audit trail to confirm this. So this is a huge project, and I know they're working very hard, having recently had a discussion, and it will be published soon. And we are actually very grateful for the pragmatic and progressive stance the FSA is taking to offer a route to compliance and work in this way with industry. Validation should hopefully happen in the next couple of months. Authorization, we'll see how long this process is, but we all know that could be a couple of years. What is really the regulatory things that we are focusing at the moment alongside the novel food process, which is the outdated, absolutely outdated and unnecessary low values for residual THC. Now, we welcome the ongoing discussions for a common EU regulation, and as you may have followed more recently, the Home Office have instructed the ACMD, the Advisory Council for the Misuse of Drugs in the UK, to also ask questions, and hopefully all going alongside. We're seeing all over Europe and UK an interest to develop something that suits the hemp sector, because really the hemp sector isn't correctly covered under the misuse of drugs regulation, which under its very definition wasn't designed to cover hemp foods. Now, we always had a lack of marketing standards, and we are absolutely thrilled by the inclusion of hemp in Article 75 of the CMO regulations. This means we will be able to actually introduce hemp marketing standards. Watch Aya, Mr. Merizzi and Ms. Romanese will be telling some very interesting things about this over the coming months. And yes, the lack of varieties adopted to southern climates, so we very much welcome the restoration of THC levels on the field to 0.3%. We hope the UK, we have seen the recent white paper published co-signed by many industry associations in the UK, actually asked the UK to request to look at 1%, to actually align us with many of the Asian and South American countries. And we know in the US already discussions to raise it to 1%. So let's see what happens next. Now, currently, we are also looking at the harvesting and processing of hemp flowers, as they need to be authorized because they're not narcotics. We have a new definition for hemp. Hemp is any part of the plant in which the concentration of total delta-9 THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, in the flowering tops is equal to or less than the regulated maximum level, as established by authorities having jurisdiction. The term is synonymous with industrial hemp. Quick few minutes. I want to take you through what else we do with the hemp fiber. Fiber has been established as one of the key parts needed in Europe, and having genuine need and potential. European hemp strains are even sought after for export to the Far East for their fiber quality. So we have short fiber, long fiber, and shivs. The short fiber is for cottonization, so certain items, as you know, Patagonia, Levi, and so on. Long fiber is more for fabrics, probably car fabrics, furniture, upholstery, and shivs for viscose. Why is it so good for the environment? Because we need less chemicals, and we use 6 times less water than cotton. We actually show at 75, oh God, 6 times, quite get that right. We show a 75% water saving compared to cotton. Hemp fabric is also naturally antibacterial, resistant to UV light and mold, and it's local and sustainable. Now, there is this drive for relocalizing essential production, reducing the carbon footprint of industry, and we're looking next to capitalize on EU fashion and textile know-how. And we hope that there will be a massive use of hemp for public procurement, hospitals and armies, etc., as has already been done in China, where the army is all stocked out with hemp underwear and t-shirts. How big is this market opportunity? Currently, the market is 32 million tons for natural fiber. Cotton has 83% of that market, which is worth 60 billion. And you will see hemp currently only makes 2% of this market. Overall, worldwide, 29%, here's the source, by the way, 29% is natural fabrics, 6% cellulosic, and about 2/3 currently synthetic fiber. And if you think of this 29%, 2% is hemp, so it's very small. The potential for growth is enormous. We have many companies, from Nike to IKEA to Patagonia, clothes and more. Currently, we don't even quite go enough hemp for the interest that is generated. The 2021 focus, we have 50 fiber and textile experts from university and research centers, and 50 textile and fiber members in the working groups. And we are absolutely now addressing this issue. I think I'm talking a bit too long, so I'm going to get faster. I think most people are aware that there's also hemp in construction materials. It's currently not addressed in a working group because there's already the Sustainable Building Materials Association, of which hemp they represent. But the potential for the construction sector is huge, because the built environment takes 40% of the EU energy consumption and is responsible for over a third of the carbon emissions. I think the slides may be available after or not, but I need to move in my time. So what are the two materials we are actually using? We're using the herds and we're using the short fiber for insulation materials, and the herds here for the construction materials. Now, hemp has an exceptional thermal performance. It will keep the house cool in summer and warmer in winter. It breathes, it's mold resistant, it's antibacterial. I would love if the opportunity arises to use hemp in my home. It's non-flammable, resistant to mold and bacteria, naturally regulates humidity, and has an exceptional acoustic and thermal performance. Easy to scale up. The technology is there. We just need to raise awareness and give space to hemp in the EU strategies on built environment. Plastic and composites, most known plastics are currently used in the car industry. Almost anybody who drives a car will have hemp somewhere in their car, in the composite panels, because hemp is lighter than steel and more durable, and because of its reduction it offers in terms of weight for vehicles, it reduces fuel usage. So the car industry replaced hemp already, but we also have another big issue, and this is true, 2017, just for your figures before we forget the Attenborough documentaries, the EU plastic waste was 25.8 million tons, and this is the equivalent of 4 sets of trailers loaded up with bales of plastic from Lisbon to Tallinn, or from Athens to Scotland, 4 lanes wide, solid trailers, back on back, just plastic. That is our annual plastic waste. Only a third of that actually gets recycled. And these figures probably have declined since China closed its doors to plastic waste and no longer wants to accept it from us. And the figures are huge. There is absolutely no way, and we're seeing a progressive interest, and we all know this, and so can hemp take part in it as well, because hemp can be molded into thousands of shapes. And we know that once a genuine hemp legislation that furthers the sector is established in Europe, because we look at all the research that's quietly going on, this sector is going to wonderfully contribute towards a better future. We also, of course, hemp's very popular, or will be very popular, in 3D printing. We are ready to go. And it's not just a question for just hemp. We can start working together with industries and help them to slowly decarbonize. We're like this. And we're saying, look, we have this raw material, start integrating it. Yeah, Rome wasn't built overnight. It's a 10 to 15-year project. I'm going to skip the paper section if that is okay. We also know hemp for paper, but I'm 2 minutes over my speaking time. So what is the conclusion and the take-home messages? We offer solutions. We're not bringing you a problem. We're offering you solutions for your environment. We can offer new jobs. We can give you healthy foods. We have a material that can help you decarbonize industry. And with all this, and people love hemp, we can help to an economic recovery, and particularly in rural locations. So better together. Let us work together. Let's cooperate. Unity and cooperation makes strength. Join us. Thank you. if anybody would like to join us, please send us an email. I believe this is now finished and I will be answering the Q&A.